Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Purpose Tune podcast. My name is Kong Shong, and I am the host of this show. The goal of this show is to create valuable content to broaden your knowledge, inspire you to act, and get you in the right mindset so you can apply it in your own life to drive impact, generate meaning, and achieve your purpose. Now, today's guest is Terry Tillman. Terry lives a life of service. He supports people in their quest of what they want by encouraging spiritual development, providing personal coaching, and facilitating growth. Through his company 22/7, Terry conducts seminars speaking to groups of 50 to 15,000 people worldwide. He produces, designs, and facilitates leadership training for organizations and individuals while coaching executives of all nationalities. As a result, participating people and organizations clarify and experience more of what they want out of life. Terry, welcome to the show. Let's check in. How are you doing?
Thank you, Com. I'm good. I
That's
check
great.
in moment to moment. This moment's very good.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
to hear that. Now, before we started this episode, we were just talking about just some of the well, not into deep, not in deep dive, but just daily habits that you do that ties into longevity, health, spirituality. And can you share with us just some of your daily habits?
Sure. Yeah, glad to. I've never been interested in longevity, quite honestly. I am interested in the quality of my day-to-day life, while I am here, however long. I want that to be good. Where do I start? At the end? Was once introduced as a recovered businessman. I would not be alive right now had I not made some drastic changes, and I know that. I'm now 80 and healthy. I run 4 times a week. I can go out and run an hour and a half. I hike, a few hours every weekend. So I have a very healthy lifestyle, but it wasn't always that way. I mean, I'll show where I started. I don't think there's very many people this extreme, but I was smoking 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day. An insomniac, 2 hours of sleep a night was good. Breakfast was donuts and coffee as I was dashing out the door. I would have a few drinks at night to relax. I would go more and more, bigger, faster, growing type A entrepreneur of 6 companies. Age 35, I closed it all down, did an about face, and went into the world I'm in now. To where now I teach people about health. What the heck is that? Do you hear that? A voice just came on my.
No, I don't hear that.
Oh, okay. Well, I just shut it off, but that's weird.
Well, there's also a lot
There's a
of
woman
disruption of
talking.
technology, so your work is really important right now.
Yeah.
With that
Yeah.
example you
Well,
just illustrated.
yeah, I am having more and more people come to me to ask about health. I was paralyzed from my waist down. I had 2 orthopedic surgeons tell me I'd never walk again. I walk, I run, I'm fine. But my only thought was, well, then you can't help me. I got to find somebody who can. And starting from there, I recovered. I healed myself, and I've learned a lot about health. So anyway, what do I do? Well,
So before we cover what you do, so I love your mindset about, if this doctor can't help me, I'm going to find someone who can, or I'm going to find resources or tools that's going to help me. How did you have the courage to think outside of the box when so many people would just listen to their doctor and say, that's it, that's it,
right.
life?
Well, that goes to the essence of the work I've done and what I teach.
Okay.
I call my work inside out leadership. Most people are looking out there, like you go to the bookstore, self-help section, there's a billion how-to books.
Mhm.
To me, that's backwards. It's not how do you do it, it's what do you do.
Right.
And that all starts, you mentioned earlier, I do a lot of work with purpose, but who am I and why am I here? And in search of that answer, somewhere inside of me, the body, we're not just a body, but the mind, the emotions, the soul, all of that aligned, knows how to heal it. Its natural condition is health. It's well, the soul doesn't have any sickness or illness or whatever you want to call it, the heart, the essence, the words, whatever. But I just knew that. I knew that my body knows how to heal itself. And what did I do to interfere with that natural health? I asked the doctor, I said, what caused this? And I was running marathons at the time. He said, all you're running on hard surfaces. And I said, no, I didn't cause it. And he said, look, I've seen hundreds of cases like this. That's what causes it. And I said, well, that might be the catalyst, but it's not the cause. What he said happened is my low back, L4 and L5 discs, the vertebrae, the disc compressed, rubbed against the sciatic nerve and severed the sciatic nerve like a rubber band. And he said nerves don't regenerate. Well, that was his belief. But I knew the body knew how to heal itself. It knows how to do that. If I cut myself, the scar that forms, first of all, it heals, but the scar that forms is stronger than the skin around it. So not only does it heal, it makes stronger. That's the body knows how to do that. So, he said it was running on hard surfaces. And I said, well, that might be the catalyst, but it wasn't the cause. I said, why was it my back, not my hip or my knees that went out? Why was the weak spot where it was? He couldn't have that conversation. It was just outside of his framework. And so I said, all right, let's go find somebody else. Well, and I did heal myself. Nothing special about me other than I did it. But there's thousands, tens of thousands of people who've done similar things, and I met some of them. So I've seen in my seminar work, I started doing general public seminars back in the 70s with a company called LifeSpring. That was, a lot of the work people do today grew out of LifeSpring and EST. EST is now Landmark Forum. But, way back there when it began is when I started working with it. And I've seen a quadriplegic get out of a wheelchair and walk. I don't mind saying this I'm saying this because you mentioned outside the box. I'll explain let me go back to pin that. I want to go back to that. I've seen a quadriplegic twice get out of a wheelchair and walk, never walked before in their life. I've seen somebody levitate. I've seen black and white hair turn to black in about 2 minutes right in front of my eyes. I've seen through solid objects. I got my conscious. So this is, people say, oh, yeah, that's impossible. Well, no, it's not. No one can tell me my experience isn't valid or true. It's my experience. But through some of these things, I saw, anything's possible. I mean, in my world, anything is possible. Anything. I mean, can I fly? Well, it's possible. Do I know how? No. Do I want to learn how? No. But is it possible? Yes. And it's just, we don't know what we don't know. And what we do know keeps expanding and keeps changing, what they call science. You go back, go back to Galileo, the Galileo frame of reference changed with Newton, and the Newtonian frame of reference changed with Einstein, and all this stuff. Nothing goes faster than the speed of light. And now quantum physicists have found something that went faster than light. And what's next? So where's the boundary? Right. I don't know,
Yeah.
I've probably seen about 7 or 8 world records set in track and field. And, watch that. It's like, where's the end?
Well, what is that quote? I can't remember who said it, but said that, we are spiritual beings just having a temporary human experience.
Yeah.
And I really believe in the law of the universe. I believe that we are infinite beings, and we're just living in in our virtual reality, which we call physical reality. And that when our physical bodies are no longer here on Earth, that there's another dimension that will enter. I don't know what it is. I can't, give the specific details of it, but through my own personal growth, development, what I found is that I feel more powerful, more synced into my core essence when I'm able to understand that what I experience here on Earth is only temporary. For example, I've had some uh, major life challenges, as it relates to my career, my health. And both of those situations have taught me that whatever life throws at me or at us, that if we're able to tap into this energy or this universe, I don't know what it is, either through meditation or some work of spirituality, that we're able to think beyond what our limited minds can take. And so you couple that with also the fact that my mom is a shaman, and she does spiritual work. It's really giving me an eye-opening experience in terms of, you know, what we experience is only what the eye can see, but there's so much more.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you and I are both interested in leadership. If you really want to learn about leadership, this is where it goes.
Mm,
Now, with most of my business clients, I don't start here,
mhm.
but more and more I am. I've been teaching meditation to businesses for 40 something years now. But if I would have called it meditation 30, 40 years ago, they would have kicked me out the door.
Right.
Really, it was too weird. So I called it a stress reduction technique. That was, they wanted that, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I start wherever they are, but since you're going here, this is the essence of it. Anybody who goes into, you know, self-development, personal growth, leadership, whatever, they keep going, it's going to take them to some level of spiritual study. They're going
Hmm.
to have to go into the invisible, and the brain mind cannot go there. It
Hmm.
doesn't go that far. So we got to go someplace else. And, you know, most people would recognize that someplace else is intuition, innate ability, follow your heart. I mean, something that's not mental,
Right.
not brain mind mental. And yet most of us, you know, grew up going to school where what was emphasized was the brain mind.
Right.
And, you know, and most of the education wasn't really education. I mean, it was read this or listen to this, take notes, remember it, memorize it, repeat it back.
Hmm. Right.
uh, that's not it. I mean, this is all relevant to leadership, because the really good leaders know
Hmm.
this, or they're, they come from here, whether they
Right.
talk about it or not, and 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 then their work stands out, their results stand out, and we start noticing them. you know and in business too, I have, like, business examples where, why did they excel when the competitors didn't?
Hmm.
And
What's your
you
definition
look
of
here.
leadership? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What
Finish your thought.
leadership? I don't know that I have a definition. What I call my work inside out leadership, and I'm not teaching people how to lead other people. I'm teaching them how to lead their life at the highest state of integrity and alignment with who they are as possible. And the people who do that are like a magnet. Others want to participate. They're drawn in. It's a natural thing. Now, everybody has this.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just they're trying to be a square peg in a round hole. Like they're trying to do it somebody else's way instead of their way.
Right.
And so my work is all, it's said so many ways, but integrity, follow your heart, do what you love, be on purpose.
Hmm.
Um,
So, as you're working with your clients and you're going about your day interacting with leaders out in the field, what do you see are some of the biggest challenges facing them?
but just that, they're not in their integrity. they're not um, they're not being who they are.
Hmm.
Like I asked, when I've never marketed or promoted. All my work's been in referrals or introductions. And I figured out a while ago that I know they're interviewing me to see if I can do what they say they want. But I tell them I'm also interviewing you. It's got to work for both of us,
Right. It's a
And
win-win situation.
yes, And if we can have that conversation, well, we'll continue. If not, so part of that is I ask them, and not always these exact ways, but do you do business as a relationship or a transaction? Which is your priority?
Right.
And sometimes I have to say it differently because I want to discover what's their priority. And if their priority is only objective, I'm not the guy. The good leaders first, it's, one of the biggest compliments I ever got. And it was one of the biggest clients I had. And, I know you've worked with some big consulting firms. I don't mean to belittle them because they do a lot of good work. I mean, this is a great field we're in.
Right.
And, but one of them started calling my work with them our People First project. And I didn't say it that way, but they recognized the priority here is the people. I did say to them, happy people are productive people. And then we'd have that conversation. What does that mean? And how do you be happy? But it's true. Now there's studies backing that up. I mean, it's not just some grand theory. I mean, there's plenty of evidence that, and testing that shows productivity increases. I mean, the whole field of positive psychology has blossomed into that area now. But, we were doing this a long time ago, 45 years ago. What I just got off track. What we
So we're talking about the challenges of leaders and
yeah, so this is it. They're so overcommitted, overworked, and focusing on the objective result. And if they're a public company, they all say how they got to next quarter reports got to show improvement. So they're thinking is short term. Basically, from my perspective, their priorities are off. And there's pressure with that, and so people don't perform well under stress, and yet they've created these stressful environments. Was I telling you this? I've been teaching my business clients meditation for 45 years, but I call it stress reduction. Stress reduction. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the pauses are as important as the action, but they don't think they have time to pause. And this is their biggest challenge. They may not identify it that way. They may talk about some level of competition or the rapid rate of change or technology improvements or keeping up. I don't know. But the real thing is the real challenge is human. And, the leaders, CEOs, presidents, senior vice presidents, managing directors, the leaders who start to work, and I don't admit anybody who's really 100% with this. It's just the intention is to get better in the areas, the principles we're working with, and move toward them. And just with that intention, improvement happens. And it's practical. I go in and my forte is experiential learning. The principles I work with, it's just not theory and it's not diagrams and formulas and all this. I set it up so they get to learn themselves, and they even put their own language on it. But it's experiential. And in my business trainings, I take them out and retreat, and I do one day outdoors. And it's set up different experiences that they're great opportunities to learn. So they learn the principles, and I think there's only 12 of them. It's about as much formula as I have, but they learn these just organically, comes out of the experience. And then the facilitating and debriefing and stuff we do. And now they have a powerful reference. It's not mental theory. It's not something to remember. Like, can you tell me Covey's 7 Habits? I can't. And I've read the book twice. It's like I've met Covey. He's dead now, and I know his son. But I can't tell you. But I can tell you what I've learned from my wilderness trips or, from my experiences. I have a degree in economics and finance from Stanford. The content of the course, I don't remember almost anything. It's almost all gone. But what I do remember is some of the experiences I had there.
Right.
What I learned about discipline, what I learned about friendship, what I learned about just going through the process.
What are some of if I had to ask you the top 3 things that leaders should focus on to be more effective, what would you say?
You put different words on it, but I would say first, loving. Love yourself and love others. Now, most business people aren't saying that. Well, more and more of them are now.
Right.
But and like subsets of that are caring, compassion, understanding,
Right.
empathy,
Yeah.
kindness. So in that category, that to me is primary.
The soft skills of leaderships.
Yeah. The hard skills are anybody can do it.
Mhm.
I mean, you can learn math and how to prepare a spreadsheet and how to read a financial statement and or whatever, and how to conduct the study or whatever. You can learn that. Anybody, not anybody, but you hire people. If you're a real leader, you bring in other people to do that, so they can learn how to do that, so that then they can move on to the next steps. So to me, it's all soft skills. I mean, the valuable ones. Now, do I know how to read a financial statement? Yeah. Do I know how to build spreadsheets? Yeah. Do I know how to investment? Yes, but that was just a step on the way to leadership. So what else? So loving. Well, I covered a lot of it under that. See, my mind doesn't work that way. Like the 7 habits, the 4 thises, the 7 that's.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't, of course, want you to list out 7 traits that leaders should should
Yeah.
have, but 3 is usually the general number that the average person would.
I'd say the way I say it, another really important one is the way I said, it's where you look is where you go. So focus on what you want more of. I had one of my clients was a manufacturing company. I'm not going to mention names. I don't know why. I don't have their permission to say all this, but international companies at the time, it was like the 64th biggest company in the world. They manufacture stuff. And I was working with their senior people on leadership skills. Well, and they liked what I was doing. This is extending on and off over like a 10-year period. And I was out at one of their plants one time, and we weren't at the plant yet. One of them said, "Do you ever do any work with safety?" And I said, "Well, I could." I hadn't. And they said, "Well, come on out to our plant, and we're having a real problem with safety, and we've had 3 deaths in the last year." And so we drive out to the plant. It's this huge campus. You go through a gate in the guard, and there's beautiful landscape lawns, a few acres of landscaping, and then drive down this windy road, beautiful properties like a park. And then the first thing I see is a great big billboard, and it says, blah, 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 120 days without an accident. And the 120 was this little card you could take off and put on a new number every day or every week or something. And then they're going to drive me on into their offices and into the factory. And so I first thing, before I saw the name of the company, they have some big sign that says whatever the name of the company is. Before that, the first thing I saw was this billboard thing about how many days without an accident. And I said, "I know your problem." And he said, "Well, how do you know?" And I said, "I can tell you right now." And so we went in and continued. Well, I want people to learn experientially. So I set up an exercise, a process where they see this dramatically, but the result is where you look is where you go. What you focus on is what you create. And it's, for most people, very unconscious. So by putting that sign up there that said accident on it, they've got a constant reminder of accidents. Where you look is where you go. So I did my exercise. I showed them where they learn the principle of the importance of the unconscious focus. And it's dramatic the way I set it up. And they can't believe it. But once they finish, it's, oh my gosh, I can tell them the words. They'll never get it like going through the experience. So now they've had the experience, and now they're ready to pay attention. And now I show them how to apply the principle and why that sign is leading them where they don't want to go. That's leadership. They're leading people to the very thing they don't want, and they don't even know they're doing it. So what do? Focus on what you want more of, not what you don't want. So then we do some work to, what is it you want? How would you know you've achieved it? And then we change the sign and their focus and posters and all that. So the focus is on what they want. They want safety. They want health. They want happy employees, whatever. And we put that in front of them instead of reduce accidents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a simple thing. It changed everything. I was almost 2 years later, I was back to the plant and how are you doing? They said, we haven't had an accident in 2 years.
Wow.
What changed? Their focus.
Mm-hmm.
That's not hard. Well, it's not hard. It's not complicated, but it's a challenge to develop the new habit.
Right.
And so we got to support them in that and set it up so that's supported.
Right. It's the habits, the systems, the processes that really are going to reach this particular company into their mission. And I think so many of us on a, unconscious level do focus on things that we really don't want because our mind is shifted to things that that are wired to focus on things that we don't want, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Our mind is wired to look for the negativity because that's our survival. That's how we survive back in
Well, there's the innate survival
instinct.
biology even that we came in with, but they're also our education. I mean, think about it. Starting in grade school, what you had a paper and you turned it in and what came back? Red marks on it.
Right.
What was pointed out was the mistakes you made.
Not great job, Terry, for
instead of, you got 80% right, but they focus on the 20% you got wrong. Now, it's not one or the other, but did they ever tell you that, talk to you about the 80%?
Right.
No, I go on and on with examples, but in our education, the focus was on don't make a mistake, don't fail,
Right.
So
when really failing is actually our greatest learning opportunity. That's where we grow.
Absolutely. It's part of the process toward where you want to go.
Right.
But we grew up thinking that's bad. Avoid it. Like just what I said, don't fail. Focus on what? Fail.
Right.
Every parent's had this. I mean, are we doing a video thing or an audio thing?
It's both.
It's both. Okay. Well, this is video. I'm holding up anything, but I just grabbed a pen. Every parent's had this experience, almost everyone. I've never met one that said, don't spill the milk. I'd let go of the pen and it dropped.
Right.
Why, every parent. So why does the kid spill the milk? Not because he's stupid or clumsy or disobedient or rebellious or uncoordinated or something. No, they spill the milk because the parent doesn't know how to give a good instruction. Don't spill the milk. The image is spilled milk. Where you look is where you go.
Right.
Instead of, hold on tight, drink the milk, put it down on the table. In other words, what do you want? This simple principle, if I taught this to any organization, doesn't have to be a business, any group, any person, that's the one most practical thing I've found in terms of producing what you say you want.
Right. Yeah, that reminds me of a book I read during my graduate studies. Don't think of an elephant. That's the title of the book. I can't remember who is the author is, but essentially, if you read the title, don't think of an elephant. People think of an elephant
immediately. That's one of the things I've used for 40 years. Is that's probably someone who can. I'm not the only one who does that, but they probably came through one of our courses.
Yeah.
We would teach them visualization. We teach them how to get in at least an alpha state, slow down, most creative state. And then we would lead them through we'd call it a closed eye process, but a guided visualization. And a lot of people say, well, I don't see anything when I visualize. And then we give the elephant example,
Right.
Okay, close your eyes. Don't think of an elephant wearing a pink hat, a purple polka dotted tie with Nike running shoes on. Everybody knows what I just said, even if they didn't see it. So how did you know that?
Right.
However you knew that is, I'm going to call it visualization, but whatever that is in you, it works.
Right. Would you consider visualization as a third leadership trait that leaders need? We kind of covered love, which ties into caring, kindness, empathy, and then talked about focus on what we
Mm-hmm.
want. What do you think is the third principle?
Well, is it a principle? But the importance of the principle is where you look is where you go. The importance of focus.
Right.
Um, yeah, I've never listed all this. I have principles I work with, but that would be a high one for sure.
Right.
Um, and there's a lot more to be said about it, but focus, perception, self-talk, whatever, but it's intention.
Mm-hmm.
But
Intention is huge.
yeah. So, but what's the outcome and define it? How would I know I'm there? And hold that as the focus,
Mm.
the intention. And one of the things I teach is not how to do something, but what to do.
Mm.
First, you got to, what is it I want? What's my intention? And get very clear on that and start moving toward it. Now, somewhere along the way, you learn some hows, but there's going to, from if I want to get from, I'm in Los Angeles, so are you, if we want to get from here to, let's say, Seattle, how are we going to get there? So the intention is get to Seattle. Now, how many methods are there? How many ways could we get there? Hundreds. I mean, well, I could go make a plane reservation and find the nonstop and fly, or I could change planes in San Francisco, or I could take a train, or I could drive a car, or I could hike, or I could, if I go into Seattle, do I go north? Yeah. Well, could I get there going south? Yes. In other words, I could keep going and come up with hundreds of ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If I only focus on the way, I may be missing the optimum approach.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know,
What inspires you to do the work you're doing today?
what inspires me is what inspired me. The very first, I jumped into what was called the human potential movement. I went from type A workaholic to this self-development person, whatever, leadership training, whatever I am. And what moved me back then was my heart opened.
I'm sorry.
My heart opened.
Mm.
I started connecting with the people, strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, it's like if you go to I told you I'm 80 and I have a 7-year-old son. I'm not normal. I never have been and don't want to be. But anyway, I'm watching kids' movies a lot the last couple of years. And some of them are really good, like Toy Story, the Pixar stuff.
Yeah.
They're heartfelt, they're moving, and they appeal to something that's in almost every human. I mean, I think that's why they're so successful. Mm-hmm. That's what inspires me in this work, just seeing people uplifted and their lives get better. And as they lift, I'm lifted with them, and everybody's got to find their own thing. Mm-hmm. The most enduring advice is do what you love what you do. Mm-hmm. This is what I loved. I feel like I've been on a 45-year paid holiday. Really. I've been in 101 countries. I've traveled the world. I've met the most interesting people, challenging work, but I see improvement. The result of what I do, I see I see something better as a result. And that's just very rewarding. Mm-hmm. I worked in Israel. I mean, I've worked all over Russia as communism was falling. I mean, it's been amazing. Wow. But I worked in Israel, and I did a seminar one time with the Israelis and the Palestinians in the same room.
Wow.
There was a metal detector. And as they entered the room, and there was a table with some guns and knives on it outside the room. And you've seen the news about the conflict and the hatred and the animosity. When I walked in, and they were seated on opposite sides of the room, and when I walked in, I almost walked out. It was palpable, the hatred. it was a 3-day workshop, and after about a day and a half, they were hugging each other, and some of them had tears in their eyes. I have so many examples like that. But people are more alike than they are different, and once they connect at that level, it's wonderful.
Right.
I spent a period of my life working toward peace. So what inspires me? That kind of stuff. Not I made more money once and I owned an airplane and stuff. That didn't inspire me.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It sounds like you found your calling and you're continuing on this path to to leverage your abilities and make a greater impact in the world. And it sounds like there's a sense of fulfillment through your work. And it also sounds like you're an individual that, of course, like all of us, money is nice to have, but that's not your core, that's not part of your core essence. Your core essence, my understanding based on what I've heard from you so far, is the wanting to make an impact in connecting all of us together because we're all humans through our core abilities and also through the commonalities that we have, which is that we all want to be loved and be treated with respect and dignity and be seen.
mm-hmm. You said a key word there, a calling. I'm just finishing up a book. The title is The Call. Who am I and why am I here? And you're right. I had a call. I answered it, and it's led to all the good things that I've had, and avoided a lot of bad things I didn't want.
Right.
But and everyone's that call. You've probably heard many are called, but few are chosen. And when I first heard that, I thought, well, I guess I'm not one of the chosen. I haven't been called. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. Well, what I found out is everybody's called. Not everybody answers.
Right.
It does take some courage because the calling might lead you in a direction different from what you thought you should do.
Mm-hmm.
But until you find, or another word is purpose. What's my purpose? Do I have one? If we don't find what that is, we're off purpose, and we won't have fulfillment, happiness, and results we want. So that to me is such a key.
Right. Right. And that's the intent of this podcast, is really to produce content and get people exposed to it so they can start thinking about how to live their life with intentionality and purpose. What I hate to see is people not stepping into who they are and what they're meant to do in this world, and to pass away with gifts still inside of them that they could have used to help put a positive impact in this world. And it's so valuable having you on here, Terry, because you've certainly have been through a lot of life challenges and have wisdom and experiences that you have shared with us. But you're also part of this community that I've created to inspire people to really live out their authentic versions of themselves. And that's one of the reasons why I admired you, and why we instantly connected, is because of your leadership work and just the vibration that I received from you. Is that you're on purpose. You're someone who's authentic, and you're wanting to make an impact in the communities that you're a part of. And we all could use a lot of that, especially in a day and age where technology has really stripped a lot of people of what really does matter. Like, for example, you log into Instagram and there's all these products that that people that are being advertised to people that they should buy because companies are making them feel like they're not enough. There's filters that you could use to make sure that your photos are presented in a in a way that is is what people would perceive to be positive, but is really misleading. And so there's all of these distractions that is stripping us away from what truly does matter, which is that, um, we have a calling and we have to answer that calling. We have to have the courage to step into that calling. We have to have enough self-awareness to step into that space of what we're meant to be, to really, shine our light in this world. And so,
Mhm.
through all of this, um, I can say that if we answer the call and we step into our purpose, that life will be more meaningful and impactful and fulfilled.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's not the products that's going to make us fulfilled. It's not our car or house, the amount of money in our bank account. What truly matters is, our impact in this world. Those are things that money cannot buy. And we have to ensure that we're on this path and that we're focused, and that we have enough self-awareness to, acquire the skill set in mindset in the people that are already doing this type of work to help us get from point A to point Z, so that we can, once we leave this earth, that, we can say that there was no regrets, that we've answered that call, whatever that call is for us.
Yeah. You said a key word, courage. It does take courage. The you know what is the concept is simple. It's not easy. And it does take courage and it takes support. And I don't know anybody who can do it on their own. That's why there's the coaching world has sprung up so big. But some level of support, Um, one of the things I did that was really smart, in line with what you just said, that is informed my life and impacted it. I use it in my work. Um, when so people listening are probably going to say, "Yeah, well, I want to be called. What's my call? What's my purpose? I want to live on purpose. I want to be happy. I want to, contribute. I want. But how do I do it? How do I, I haven't been called. What do I know? How do I find it? You won't find it where you are. You got to go above where you are. You got to expand the context. And when I was, I think I said this, I was a type A workaholic entrepreneur. I started and grew 6 companies and it looked successful, but I didn't feel successful. I was dying inside, worried, stressed, not sleeping. And I didn't know what to do. This is back in the late 60s or early 70s. And I did a smart thing. I went to I thought that if I could just find some older people who've been down the road ahead of me, maybe they could give me some answers. And so I went to a retirement home and I spent a whole day talking to maybe 10. I think they were all men. I don't remember, but, and I would ask them, what have you learned? What's the most important thing you could pass along to me? What's the secret to life?
Right.
And I'd have these conversations and I could still visually see some of the faces. These were people 60 to 90. And I don't remember any like the secret to life exactly. But what I do remember is every single one of them talked to me about regrets. And dominantly, I never did see my son's baseball games. I was so busy growing my business. One guy said, I always wanted to learn to play the piano. And now that I've got time to do it, I can't do it. Look at my hands are all arthritic. I never got around to writing that book I wanted to write. I mean, they would talk about in other words, didn't see my daughter's ballet recital. They talk about things that now they realize are important. But back then, when they were busy earning their money or being dutiful or, something that they thought they should do or had to do, they didn't get to do what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized right then, I'm on that track. I'm going to be 90 years old looking back, or I won't even make it to 90. I mean, and if I don't change something now, I'm one of those guys with regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about a year later, I closed down all my companies. Now, I got to tell you, it takes courage. and some degree of naivete and innocence, because everybody around me was telling me what a mistake I was making. Family, business associate, business partner, every one of them. I'm hard pressed to think of someone who said, "Good choice, Terry, go do it."
Right.
Now, where I was going to, there were a couple new people I met there who were encouraging me, but the people in my circle. And courage, the word courage comes from French, coeur, heart. So it's, follow your heart.
Right.
Trust your heart.
Right.
It isn't plan it out and think about it and be logical at all. There's nothing logical about it.
Right.
And so that's why it takes courage.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's so
You don't get the answers ahead of time. There's no guarantee. There's no certainty. So it's risk. But
well,
in the process, I had a wise grandmother who used to say, the journey is the destination. But see, what I've just said makes sense to most people. Are you going to do it? Probably not, unless you have some support, some encouragement, or unless you're this rare person that self-initiates and already knows how to, So people they understand it, that they comprehend it. They don't understand it till they've done it.
Right.
And well, that makes sense. I want to do it. Okay, well, do it. Well, how? Okay, take a step. What's the step? Listen to Kong's podcast. Listen to the next one. Hire him. Get some support. Find out what. And it's trial and error. I teach my little boy all the time, trial and error. I mean, when he was 3, when he learned to ride a bicycle. So I introduced trial and error. He now loves trial and error. At his young age, failure is no big deal to him.
Right.
He fell off the bike a few times and kept going. And right now he's really good in gymnastics and he's making lots of errors. And he's loving it,
Right.
So.
Yeah. That's thank you so much for sharing. We talked a lot about, intentionality and in purpose, but we didn't really define what that is. Could you help our audience define what purpose is to you?
Everybody has a purpose. And I do a little short thing in some of my seminars where if I ask the group, would you like to know your purpose in life? Every hand goes up. Do you believe that you do have a purpose? Not all the hands go up, but most of them. Okay, you'd like to know, you believe there is such a thing. Let's set it up so you can know what your purpose is. They think it's got to be a long, involved thing. I'm coming at this a roundabout way to answer because I'm not going to define purpose with a dictionary definition. That's just mental.
Right.
Purpose, the way I go at it is, so, okay, they want to know their purpose. And so I have them stream of consciousness. Now you got to get them in a certain state. And I'm shortening this. I can create the state where they're centered, they're present, they're aligned, they're congruent. And from there, stream of consciousness, make a list of all the times in your life that have been the most joyful, the happiest, peak experiences, highest awareness, most intelligent, just the top things in your life. You don't have to write paragraphs, just be a few words or a phrase so that you know what it is. Child born, or got first place in the race, or whatever. Just popped in my mind was my first sexual experience. I mean, but whatever. Make that list. I can easily look at that list and I see right away what their purpose is. Why? But it's got to be in their words. So I have them look. Do you see what those all have in common? And that's your purpose. Because the nature of purpose, instead of what defined purpose, my purpose is, if when I am on purpose, I am happy, joyful, intelligent, perceptive, kind, considerate, loving, compassionate, all the good things, because that's the nature of purpose.
Mhm.
So, you know, and when I do this with a group of people, there's usually kind of a gasp because they realize I'm not on purpose, and I might have to make some big changes. I might
Mhm.
have to quit this job and go find another one. I might have to, oh, maybe this woman I'm engaged to isn't the right one, or things that, wow, it's can be scary.
Right.
So that's a lot of the work is support the comfort zone. You've heard that phrase. I'm the guy who developed it in the way it's taught now. And that's a whole nother talk. But my whole work is to get people to the edge of their comfort zone and support them past. And so by its nature, there's a period where it's not comfortable. It's
Right.
you know,
You have to have the courage to transform your life to live on purpose.
mhm.
And that's in how you've taught and continue to teach these leaders, you know, how to be on purpose, to live with purpose, to show up with intentionality is all great work. And uh, that's a phenomenal impact because once they're able to acquire that mindset and acquire the skills necessary to change, it trickles down, meaning their teams will follow suit, their division will follow suit, their organization will follow suit, because people look at their leaders, and how these leaders show up is how people will show up. And
Yeah.
so
No, it
that's
ripples
that's
out for sure. We're all connected. And it doesn't have to be the guy on top spreading it down. It could be anybody, each person.
right.
And the more aligned they get, the more purposeful they are, the more, they work the principles,
Mhm.
it spreads to, like it could be the father, it could go to your child, your wife, and then it goes out to their orbit, and then, it ripples out like that.
Right. Yeah.
I do a lot of work to eliminate the top down command and control systems that are so worse, more prevalent in business, still there.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Well, Terry, I want to be respectful of your time, and has been such an incredible talk.
hmm.
Any departing advice you'd like to share with my listeners? And also, where can they find you should they choose to connect with you after hearing about this episode?
Yeah, I usually respond. I my email is probably the best thing. Um, you can put it somewhere in there, right?
The show notes. Okay.
Yeah. But Tillman at 227company.com. They won't remember that for me saying it, but if it's written wherever they find this, then,
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
respond. I've had periods where I wouldn't respond because there's too much. But right now, I'm doing COVID slowed everything down.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Unfortunately.
hmm.
Well, Terry, again, thank you so much for showing up for this, and I appreciate your time. Truly admired your work and your impact. Um, and I am just happy that we got connected, and having you on this show means a lot to me and also to the people that listen to this show. You're part of now a community of purposeful individuals wanting to make an impact in their own communities, in ways they're able to and know how. And so I want to thank you for your presence, the gifts you've shared with us today, as well as your wisdom, which is greatly needed in today's society, in order to shift people's mindsets so that they can really truly go for the things that actually matter most, in their life. And Terry, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kong. My pleasure. This is what I do. And if you weren't here and an audience somewhere or a client somewhere, I wouldn't get to do what I love. So my pleasure. Yeah.
Amazing.